به نام خداوند بخشنده و مهربان. با سلام خدمت دانشجویان عزیز. وقت همگیتون بخیر. امیدوارم حال همگیتون خوب باشه. Hello everybody, I hope you are doing well and good afternoon. Thank you so much. Do you have my voice? Okay, thank you. Now we have 6 participants now in this class. Thank you, dear Salah Abdul Mehdi. Thank you. I'm fine. Okay. We are waiting for other students to join the class. If you have any question about our previous subjects, feel free to ask me. And if not, I can speak about some subjects about our previous session for reminding something. Okay, thank you. Nice. Say hello to everybody, especially who joined the class recently. Okay, so let me start. To reminder, you know that in our previous session, we introduced and talked about some topic selection resources. For example, one of them was searching on the net. Here, for example, I introduce some phrases in English to search for some topics. For example, research topics in computer or software engineering, and we can find some proper and general results to find some ideas especially, and other phrases, for example, research priorities in your field of study, issues for research in your field of study. So this is a good way to find some general ideas about your research topic. And at the continue, we talked about one of the important tools for any researcher all around the world that we used, Google Scholar, which we introduced as a search engine for researchers. And you saw that why Google Scholar is so important for any researcher. So by using some relevant keywords, for example, here we use keyword number 1 and keyword number 2 and etc. We can find some papers, some ebooks, some research that will help us, especially new ones. Especially Google Scholar is a very good tool to find some new references for our research. So we talked about that, about how to find some papers and researchers in a specific range of the year. For example, if we have alpha and beta, so you can find you can find some papers in some specific year. For example, if I want to find papers and ebooks from 2001 and to 2007, so I can refine my research. Okay, we talked about that. At the continue, I discussed about another ability of Google Scholar to find some well-known professors and researchers in our field of research. You can find their articles, their books, their patents. by using university websites, by using LinkedIn social network, by using Google Scholar account, and etc. So in our previous session, we especially talked about Google Scholar to find some researchers and professors in our desired field of study. And don't forget that, study some new research from some well-known professors will help you to choose your proper topic. Okay, any question about our previous sessions? Okay, thank you. Again, I say hello to everybody, especially ones that joined the class recently. Thank you. سلام علیکم. مرسی. خب من پس یک توضیحاتی رو به فارسی دادم، یک مروری کردم از جلسات قبل، اینکه ما چه نکاتی رو بیان کردیم. And the important note number one, to choose a new topic for our dissertation, be sure to read new research titles of well-known academic staffs, professors, researchers in your field of research. In fact, the goal of the study for students and researchers to find out what research topic have university professors and researchers around the world focus on. So this tool is another important thing to find new ideas, and please pay careful attention about important note number one. Okay, so let's go to our new session. Okay, in this session I want to talk about conference papers, the role of conference papers, and why we should submit and write conference papers, and talk about the importance of conference papers. So if I want to explain in فارسی، در این جلسه میخوایم در مورد اهمیت مقالات کنفرانسی و اینکه چرا ما باید یک مقاله کنفرانسی بنویسیم صحبت بکنم. So here you can see a general category of research papers. Number one, conference papers, and number two is journal papers. And for reminder, we talked about domestic journal papers in Iran. So in this session I want to talk about especially conferences that are held in Iran. There are two types of conferences: national and international. And I want to talk about the differences and the importance and the role of these conference papers, especially because you are a master student. خب اگه بخوام به زبان فارسی بگم، پس ما قبلا مقالات ژورنالی داخلی در ایران صحبت کردیم. برای مقالات کنفرانسی هم این اتفاق میفته. ما دو مدل ملی و بین المللی داریم برای مقالات کنفرانسی و انشالله امروز در این مورد صحبت میکنم. So today I want to talk about conference papers to complete our discussion. Okay, so let me go to the bottom of the page. Here, as you can see, I want to tell you some goals of writing conference papers. I want to talk about some goals of writing conference papers. Okay, here let me talk about the importance of attending. Yes, dear Salah, I want to talk about that, and I want to define what is conference papers and the differences between conference papers and journal papers, okay? Today I want to talk about that, and I fully explain to you what does that mean and why we should write a conference paper. Okay, here at conference, different researchers come together not only to share their latest research findings with other researchers. This is the first goal of research papers. Suppose that there are many researchers that are held in the conference to share their latest research findings with other researchers. So, holding in some places will help you to find out other researchers working on which titles. This is the first goal of writing conference papers because you can know uh, and you can know about other researchers' findings. So this is the goal number one. Share the latest research findings. Share our latest research findings. For example, maybe you work on artificial intelligence in a new subject about artificial intelligence, and you want to search your latest findings about artificial intelligence with other researchers. This is the first goal of writing conference papers. But here I said that, but also to take the opportunity to exchange information. This is the second goal of writing conference paper, exchange information. But what does that mean? What does exchanging information mean? For example, suppose that researcher, for example, suppose that student number one works on, suppose that robotics and fuzzy systems. And student number two that works, for example, on artificial intelligence, on a specific mechatronic system, for example. Okay, here you can see that this is the best place to exchange information. For example, suppose that student number two doesn't know anything about robotics. So when you attend a conference, you can increase your information science about robotics, about fuzzy systems, about other information that you already doesn't know anything about it. So this goal is so important for researchers all around the world to exchange information. For example, student number two will tell student number one that what is the specific method that in artificial intelligence that he done in his or her research articles. And student number one in exchange tell that what's the application of fuzzy systems on robotic systems. So this exchanging information will help you and increase your knowledge. Okay, so this is the second goal of writing conference paper when you attend conferences. Okay, any question? Was it clear, dear students? Okay, dear Ghassan.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
Salam.
آه،
وقتتون بخیر.
آه،
Okay, go on. If you have any question.
وقت بخير دكتور. Are there after conference paper are there one unit paper to all of them or everyone take his paper?
Dear Ghassan, can you repeat your question again?
After conference between persons whom concern and information or exchanging information, are there one paper from them?
If I understand what your question, don't forget that we categorize conference papers, for example, in domestic or national conference and international. But subjects are so important, yes. For
Yes.
example, you as a computer engineering student, you should submit and write to your relevant conferences, okay? For example, you
Okay.
can't submit your conferences to other fields of study and engineering, okay? I will tell you, I will show you how to find the proper conferences and related to your branch of science. Okay, thank you, dear Qassem. Dear Salah, what's the difference between conference paper and journal? Okay, I will tell you about that. I will tell you the differences. There are some differences, and here in the reasons, I will tell you. Okay, any question about the goals of writing conference papers? Let me go. Dear Ammar Yasser, Salaam alaikum, thank you, and thanks for joining the class. Uh, okay, so here I want to talk about some reasons why attending conference and publishing conference papers. Here I will tell you about the differences between journal papers and conference papers. So let me go to the bottom of the page again. Uh, so here I wrote that compared to journal papers, conference papers have fewer pages. For example, so it is easy to write a conference paper. Uh, but in journal papers, generally you should write a complete version of your research. It maybe have a large number of pages for journal papers, but conference papers require uh, a few pages, maybe for example 2, 3, 5, 6 pages, I don't know. It depends on the policy of that conference. But in comparison with journal papers, conference papers have need fewer pages. So it is easier to write. It is easy to write. Easy to write a conference paper. And this is the reason number one. And easier to be accepted, you know, the procedure of reviewing, in conference papers are so easy in comparison with journal papers. You know that I'm a reviewer, and in journal papers there are some uh, steps to review some journal papers, but in conference papers they are generally easy to be accepted or to be rejected. Okay, so this is reason number two. But in journal papers, it may be, for example, maybe you should write 20 pages, maybe you should write 30 pages. It depends on the journal and your research, but generally conference papers have fewer pages, so it is easy to write and it is easy to obtain accepted from the conference. Okay, do you understand my explanations about the differences between journal papers and conference papers? So it depends on the number of pages. This is the first differences, and the procedure of reviewing for journal papers and conference papers. So if I explain in فارسی، در مقایسه با مقالات ژورنالی معمولا چاپ مقالات کنفرانسی راحت‌تر و تعداد صفحات مقالات کنفرانسی کمتر است. Okay, so here many researchers tend to turn their ideas and research into the conference paper at the beginning. So don't forget that. For example, suppose that you, as a master student, you choose a topic for your proposal. For example, maybe you choose a specific ID and title for your proposal, and after some months later, many researchers prefer to turn their ideas into the conference paper at the beginning. Here is so important. But what are the reasons? And I want to tell you the reasons why some researchers and many researchers want to turn their ideas to the conference paper. Because at the conference, your research will be evaluated and criticized by other researchers. This is so important and helpful for any researchers, that your work is evaluated and also criticized by other researchers. This is, this is very helpful for you, because this is not a journal paper. This is a conference paper. You easy to write. You don't require to get any details in your conference papers, but by other researchers it will be evaluated. They will give you some comments. They will give you some comments, some suggestions about your work, and it will be very helpful for you, because this process is important in reviewing and advancing your research work in the future. For example, suppose that your supervisor, suppose that you have supervisor and you as a student. Okay, for example, maybe you choose a specific ID for your research, but when you attend a conference, maybe one researcher and professor tells you that if you do something, your ideas will be flourish. And again, you will give that ID to your supervisor and tells him or her that maybe that ID, that new ID, will help you to advance your research perfect. So this is another reason why researchers tend to attend a conference. It is because their works